Hello and welcome to our intermediate lower body strengthening session. We are going to take the same 5 movements we took last time and progress them today. So we're going to be using all 3 of our sticks and perhaps a yoga block, pillow, or step stool, something to modify some of these movements. And let's get started. So we are again starting with our hip rotation, but this time we are getting into deeper ranges of motion and then working within those ranges of motion. So we're going to start with one long stick. You'll be down on the floor and we're going to get into a shin box position. Now this is a difficult position to get into, so if it's hard for you to get on the floor or into a shin box because of the hip rotation, we can modify with some yoga blocks or something to lift the hips a little bit higher off of the floor. So we can place the front hip and the front knee on a yoga block just like this and work our shin box from this position. This is going to put a lot less stress on the obliques and those hips. So I'm going to show you the progress version, which is all the way down on the floor. And we're going to place the left leg in front first. You want that knee straight out in front of the hip. Right leg is to the side. Knees are bent so that that left foot is kind of attached to the front of the thigh of that right leg. And we're going to take your long stick and drive it into a wall or a stable surface outside of that front leg or that left leg. So we're going to drive the stick into the wall. Because I'm driving the stick this way into the wall, it's going to help me stack my rib cage on top of the hips. So we're driving that stick this way to the left, which is then helping me pull my body to the right. If this is really difficult to keep your body straight, you can also try the monkey hang version, which is stick placed right next to that left hip, grabbing up nice and high and driving down with that stick to pull the rib cage away from that left side. So find which progression works for you. I'm going to show from both, but I'll start with the landmine, driving the stick into the wall. So we're going to find some tension here, about 40% tension into the wall, and I want you to press both knees into the floor at 40% tension. So we're activating those hips. This front leg is in external hip rotation. My right leg, the trail leg, is in internal rotation. So let's actively stretch in and out of that external rotation first. So keeping that tension on the wall, both knees pressing into the floor. We're going to pitch the torso forward. That's going to lengthen the outer part of that left hip. And then you're going to drive the knee into the floor even more to bring that body back upright. And let's do that again. So we're pulling forward into that stretch. Now you're only going to go as far as you can while keeping that spine straight. So you don't want to round the spine. If that starts to happen, I want you to pull out of that stretch and extend that spine so that all that stretch is happening in the hip. And then drive that knee down to come back up. And then let's do that again. As you drive forward into that stretch, think of pulling that left hip away from the left knee. And then drive that left knee down to come back up. Let's do 2 more and I'll show you the monkey hang version. Lengthening that spine forward. The stick is going to pitch forward with you. And then drive down to come back up. Let's do that one more time. Pulling into that stretch. We want to feel, again, the stretch on the outside of that left hip and drive down to come on up. So you're going to stay in your progression or you can switch and we're going to stretch into the internal rotation of the trail leg. So we're going to rotate to the right. Your hip is going to drop towards the floor and you're going to turn your chest towards 3 o'clock. Keep driving that stick into the floor. This pulls this hip into more internal rotation. Then I want you to drive that hip up and forward out of that position. Okay, so go ahead, drive that right hip back down into the floor. As you rotate your chest towards 3 o'clock, we'll feel a deep stretch on the inside of that right hip. Then you're going to use those glutes to push you back forward. And let's do that 3 more times, pulling into that internal rotation stretch, turning the body towards that leg. This can be a lot on the knee, so play with where your toes are facing. They might feel better facing out or tucking the toes under this way. Let's go 2 more. I'll show you this progression. Right, so we're turning the body towards 3 o'clock, hip down towards the floor, and push out of that position. And let's go 1 more time, pulling into that stretch. and push out of it. Let's slowly switch sides. So I'm going to show you from this side, and I'll show you the regressed version on the yoga blocks for this one. So we're in that shin box. Right hip is right in front of that right knee. That left leg is to the side. And we're going to push into the wall with that stick, pulling that right side of the rib cage away. Drive both knees down into the yoga blocks or the floor. Remember, less is always more for these deep stretches. So especially with this trail leg, we're going into a lot of times uncharted territory. So we want to go a little bit less, and over time you'll be able to isolate that rotation a little bit more. So keep that 30% tension as we drive forward into that external rotation stretch of the front leg, keeping that spine nice and extended. Pull the right hip away from the right knee, and then drive the right knee down to bring the body back upright. Again, pull forward into that stretch. Feeling the stretch on the outside of that right hip. You might also feel a stretch on the inside of that right hip, especially since we already did the internal rotation on that side. Drive down to come back up. Let's do that 3 more times. Keep driving the stick down and into the wall to keep the rib cage pulled away from that right side. And then we're going to drive down to come back up. And we'll go 2 more. Driving down into that floor or the yoga blocks. Press down to come out of it. Let's go 1 more time. Pull into that deep stretch. Lengthen that right thigh. And exhale to come out of it. Let's go into our internal rotation stretch. So we're going to drive that left hip down towards the floor or the yoga block. Turn the chest towards 9 o'clock. Okay, again, play with where this foot is pointed. Are the toes out, or is the top of the foot on the floor? Whatever feels good. And then you're going to drive that hip up and forward to come back to our shin box position. And then let's go again into that stretch, pulling into that stretch. We really want to try to drive that hip down towards the floor and then push out of it. Let's go 3 more. Driving into the floor with that left hip. Turning the body towards 9 o'clock. If this feels really good, you could even lean forward towards that knee with the torso. Push out of it. And let's go 2 more. Rotate, rotate. And push down. Lift that hip. So those outside glutes are really working hard to help push that hip back up. 1 more time. Rotate into that stretch. Deep internal rotation of that hip and push out of it. All right, let's slowly come out of this position and we're going to stand up. So we can move our yoga blocks to the side and grab our other long stick. We're going to do some abduction slides, and then we're going to add some hip rotations on top of those movements. So we're going to start in a tall standing position. Sticks are going to be at 10 and 2 o'clock. And then we're going to angle the bottoms of the stick towards you, grab the sticks at chest height, and drive the sticks down into the floor. So we're working at 50% tension here, driving the sticks down. Maintain that 50% tension as we lift the right leg up in front into low hip flexion. Make sure you're active on that left leg and hip. Open that right leg to the stick. Find that 50% tension into the stick. We're going to slide the leg up at 50% tension. Once we get to the top, keep pushing the foot into the stick as we drop the knee forward and in. This is going to pull the hip into internal rotation. We're working on multi-directional force production here. That's a mouthful. But we are going into abduction and flexion of the hip with rotation. Slowly go into external, pulling the knee outside the stick and behind you. And then we'll slowly slide that leg down. Let's increase that tension to 60%. Push out into that stick as you slide the knee up towards the armpit, and then we're going to rotate at the top. Drop that knee in for hip internal rotation. Keep pushing out into the stick with that right foot, and then lift the knee up and pull it behind you into external rotation. Notice how the external is pretty small. That's normal. Slowly slide the leg back down. Let's increase to 70% tension. Pushing out into that stick as you slide it up. Once we're at the top, we're going into internal and external. and slide it back down. Let's increase to 80% for the last 2 reps. Really pushing out into that stick as you slide the leg up. Continue pushing into that stick as you rotate internal and external. Slowly slide that leg back down. Keep that 80% tension. Drive the sticks down. That's going to help bring stability to that left hip and a little more range of motion to the right hip. Drop to internal. Pull out to external. Come back center. Slowly roll it back down and rest. So in the shin box, we were working our passive range of motion by stretching into those rotations. This drill is all about active rotation, active range of motion. How far can you rotate all on your own without leaning your body weight into that stretch? All right, so we're gonna go tall standing again. Sticks are at 10 and 2 o'clock. Bottoms of the sticks angled towards you. Drive those sticks down at 50% tension. Make sure you can breathe here. And then lift that left leg up. Stay active on that right leg. We're gonna try to stay on that right leg the whole time without putting the left foot down. Pull that left foot out to that left stick. Hold. We're gonna slide the left leg up at 50% tension, pushing back into that stick at the top. We're gonna find that internal hip rotation, dropping that knee in and forward. And then find the external. Make sure that as you go, especially into external, that the body and that supporting hip is not turning with you. Less is more. Slide the leg down, increase to 60% tension. Breathe. Slide that leg up. Once we get to the top, let's drop into internal rotation. Push into that stick. Try not to lean away from the leg. External rotation. Try not to turn towards the leg. Less is more. And then slowly come back center. Slide the leg down. Let's increase to 70% tension. Now we're working really hard with the legs, the hips, and the upper body, driving down into the floor with those sticks, going into internal rotation and external rotation. Slowly come back center, bring the leg down. Let's increase to 80% tension. Don't forget to push into that stick as you slide the foot up. Once we're at the top, keep that 80% as you go internal, and keep the 80% as you go external. Come back center, lower that leg, maintain 80, readjust if you need. Slide it back up. This is our last rep. Take a deep breath. Slide the leg up higher and keep it high for the internal rotation. Keep it high for the external rotation. And slowly bring it back center and all the way down. And rest. All right, I think we've got those hips warmed up. Let's get into some single leg deadlifts. So in our last video, we did these against the wall. Today, we are doing them without the wall, but you're gonna imagine that the wall is still behind you. We want that back leg nice and active in your single leg hip hinge. So we're gonna have an imaginary wall, and if you need the wall there for some extra stability or just some feedback, go ahead and do your single leg deadlift on the wall. So we're gonna start in a tall standing position. Sticks are at 11 and 1 o'clock. We're gonna hold them at sternum height. With each single leg deadlift today, we are going to be lifting sticks. So each time we go into our hip hinge, we're gonna be challenging the stability and testing to make sure that that supporting hip is nice and loaded. So let's lift the right leg up first. We're at 50% tension on those sticks. We're gonna reach that right leg and hip up and back, softening that left knee. Imagine that wall is behind you. We're really pushing into that right leg. Make sure the toes are not pointing out to the side. They're straight down. Once we are set in this position, without hyperextending the spine or flaring the rib cage, right, which may mean that you need to slide the hands down a little bit, we're gonna try to lift the left stick up. Just the left stick and hold. 3, 2, 1. Bring the left stick down and come back to hip flexion. Let's try that again. Increase to 60% tension. Find that hip hinge, reaching those hips up and back. Deep breaths here. Keep pressing those sticks into the floor so that the lats and the abdominals are engaged. We don't want to hyperextend that spine. Now let's lift the right stick off the ground, 1 inch, and hold. 3, 2, 1. Bring that stick down, then bring the hips underneath you. We're gonna do that 3 more times, lifting both sticks off the floor each time. Let's increase that tension to 70% as you go into that hip hinge. Drive those sticks down, but make sure you're not leaning on those sticks. We're gonna lift both sticks up. I want you to try to keep the arms straight as you lift. So you may need to slide those arms down the stick, and as you lift, think about pulling your biceps next to your ears. Hold. That's really gonna shift your weight back into that left hip. Bring the sticks down. Push up into that hip flexion. We're doing 2 more. Let's stay at 70% for this next one. If it's really difficult to lift both those sticks up, you can just go back to lifting 1 stick. Keep that 70% on the stick. Find that tension in the lower body as you lift the sticks and hold. 3, 2, 1. Place the sticks down. Come back up. And let's do that 1 more time. We're really loading that left hip. Find that hip hinge. Stay nice and active in that right leg. Last one. Here we go. Lift up and hold. 3, 2, 1. Bring the sticks down. Push out of it to come on up and rest. Nice job. Shake it out. And we're going to switch sides. So now we're standing on the right foot. I'm going to show you from the same side so you can see the inside hip angle. All right. So we're going tall standing with those sticks. At 11 and 1 o'clock, drive them into the floor starting at 50%. Stay nice and tall and active on that right hip as you lift the left leg up and hold. Reach those hips up and back as you go into your hip hinge, slightly bending that right knee. Make sure we're not hyperextended in the spine or that rib cage is flared out. We want to drive those sticks down. Once we are nice and solid in this position, active in that left leg, lift that right stick up first. Pull the bicep next to the ear. And then bring that right stick down. Come on out of it. And let's go again. Find 60% tension. Keep that tension as you reach the hips up and back into your hinge. Left leg stays nice and active. We're going to hold in this position. And then once we're solid here, we're going to lift the left stick up. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Bring that stick down. And come on up. Let's do last 3. We're lifting both sticks this time. If you need to slide those hands down a little bit lower, go ahead and do it. We're increasing that tension to 70% for these last 3 reps. Go ahead into your single leg deadlift, really loading up that right hip. Once we're nice and solid here, keep those elbows straight. We're going to lift those sticks up and hold. 3, 2, 1. Bring the sticks down and come on up. We want to make sure those sticks are nice and solid into the ground before we come back up with that supporting hip. Let's go into that hip hinge again, reaching back with that left leg, driving those sticks down at 70%. Transfer that tension to the lower body as you lift the sticks and hold. Just 1 inch off the floor. Bring the sticks down and come back up. Let's do that 1 more time, really getting those hips nice and warm. Reach the hips up and back. Find that deep hip hinge, soft bend of that right knee. Reach back with that left foot and last lift. Here we go. Up. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Bring those sticks down and come on up. Shake it out. Nice job. Okay, so we're going into our last strengthening exercise, our lunges. We are going to try to start from the ground up today into your lunge, but you can also regress to a lunge sinking down, similar to our monkey hang we did in the last video. So let's start on the ground. And if we're somewhere in between, I'm gonna show you a modification. So the right knee is gonna be down first, and ideally it's on the floor. However, lifting that knee away from the floor onto a yoga block or a surface that's just gonna pull that knee out of a deep flexed position may be a perfect modification that's a little bit harder than if we were to start from the top down. So anyway, if you're in a half kneeling position and it's a lot on your knee, try this regression first, putting your knee on a yoga block. We want that back foot right behind the knee, so make sure we're not externally rotated at that hip, and we want those toes tucked under. Sticks are gonna be at 11 and 1 o'clock. If this is still too much on your knee, or if at any point in the set you feel like you need to regress a little bit, you can start from the top. So we'll just start in a small lunge position here, and instead of lifting up into your lunge, you're going to sink down into your lunge. Okay, so from whichever progression you're working with, we're gonna drive those sticks into the floor starting at 60% tension this time. So we're driving down into the floor. As you're driving the sticks down, I want you to also push the feet down into the floor, which is going to activate this back hip. We want this hip to stay extended as we lift off into our lunge. Drive down at 60% tension and lift that back knee off of the floor or the yoga block or lower down to your lunge position without shifting the weight forward, arching this back, or overextending that back knee, and bring the knee down. Okay, it's a lot. Release the tension, and then we're gonna ramp it back up, this time to 70%. So now we're increasing the tension in this base position, and then using that 70% tension to lift that back leg without changing anything in the body. We're lifting barely off the floor, and hold. 3, 2, 1. Slowly lower back to the floor, release that tension. Let's ramp up again. We're going to 80% tension this time, driving down into that floor. Between the feet and those sticks, we're gonna lift up and hold. 3, 2, keep driving down. 1, and lower. So the back quads and hips should be on fire. We're gonna ramp up this time again to 80% tension. Drive those sticks down. Use those sticks to help lift your body up into that lunge. Here we go. 5 seconds, hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring that back leg down. Release the tension. We're gonna do just one more like that. Ramp it up to 80% tension. Drive those feet down into the floor. Make sure that back hip is active. Here we go. Last one, 5 seconds. Lift, hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Nice job. Let's slowly come out of it and switch sides. I'll show you from this angle. Okay. Once you're set up, make sure again that this back hip is not externally rotated. Bring the foot right behind the knee. Nice and stable position here. We're gonna drive down at 60% tension. Maintain that 60. And we're gonna lift that back knee up or lower yourself down or lift off from the block and hold. Make sure nothing is changing here. We're not shifting forward into that front leg, overextending the back hip or knee, or arching that back, and bring that knee down. Take a breath, and let's do that again. Increase to 70% tension, and then we're gonna lift that back knee up or lower yourself down. Try to maintain that tension. 3, 2, 1. Slowly bring that back knee down. Try not to crash back down to the floor. Release that tension. Let's increase that tension to 80%. Drive both feet down. Drive those sticks down. 80%. And here we go. Lift it up. Hold. Keep holding for 3, 2, 1. Slowly bring that knee down. Work slowly and with control. And here we go, ramping back up to 80% tension. We're almost there. Drive down, push through that floor as you lift up. Try not to shift. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly lower back down, releasing that tension. Make sure you're breathing. We're doing one more. Slowly start to ramp up that tension one more time. We want this back hip really nice and active. Quads are on fire. And lift up, hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And rest. Woo. Nice job. Okay, so that concludes our strengthening. We are just going to stretch a little bit and then we are all finished. In our last video, we did our ninja flow on the wall. Today, we are doing it without the wall. You can, of course, always go back to reaching your hips back to the wall and doing it that way so you have that extra feedback for the hips. But we're going to try it without the wall today and see if you can really feel for yourself if those hips are shifting out of this square position. So we're going to go in a wide stance. Stick is going to go on the inside of that right foot right at 3 o'clock. We're going to hold the stick at eye level or a little bit higher. And then we're slowly going to shift those hips down and back. Left arm is just kind of hanging out here. Reach that left arm across with the thumb pointing down, which rotates the spine, but make sure that you don't shift those hips or the weight. Lengthen that stick with 30%. Left arm is driving down, right arm is pulling up, and shift to the left. Make sure that left knee is not collapsing in. Pull the left knee out and that left hip back as you rotate the torso. Look up towards the ceiling. 3, 2, 1. Shift to the right, looking down towards the floor. Pull that stick apart and shift back to the left. Pull at 30% tension. Pull that left knee out and that left hip back. Breathe here. Shift back to the right, looking down towards the floor. And let's go one more time. Lengthen that stick. Pull that left knee open as you rotate. And shift back to the right. And let's slowly release that left hand. Come on up out of it. And we'll switch sides. So we're stretching into the hips, the spine, and the shoulders with this ninja flow. From that wide stance, stick is going to go inside that left foot right at 9 o'clock. We're going to grab at eye level or a little bit higher. Sink those hips into a hinge with the knees slightly bent. Reach the right arm across with the thumb pointing down and then pull that stick apart. Make sure you didn't shift your weight over or the hips. Pulling that stick at 30% tension. Shift to the right. Breathe. 3, 2, 1. Shift to the left, looking down towards the floor. Pull that stick apart again. Shift back to the right. Looking up towards the ceiling. Pull that right knee open, that right hip back. And shift back over to the left, looking down towards the floor. Lengthen that stick one more time and shift to the right. One thing to make sure in this movement is that you're not reaching the hips higher than the shoulders or letting the shoulders fall towards the floor. Grab that stick a little higher if you need to keep the shoulders above the hips. And slowly come on out of it. Very nice work. We definitely kicked it up a notch with this workout. I hope your legs are feeling great, and I hope your hips are feeling nice and worked and open. And I will see you next time.